আজকে আমরা দেখব জনর সম্বন্ধে। A term French in origin that denotes a type or class of literature. The genres into which literary work have been grouped at different times are very numerous, and the criteria on which the classification have been based are highly variable. Since the writings of Plato and Aristotle, however, there has been an enduring division of overall literary domain into three large classes in accordance with who speaks in work: lyric, epic, or narrative, and drama. A similar tripartite scheme elaborated by German critics in the late 18th and early 19th centuries was echoed by James Joyce in his portrait of the artist as a young man. Chapter 5 and functions still in critical discourse and in general distinction in colleague catalogues between courses in poetry, prose fiction, and drama. তো জনর আসলে একটা ফ্রেঞ্চ টার্ম, যেটাকে অ্যারিস্টটল এবং প্লেটোর রাইটিং থেকে আমরা আরও ভালোভাবে জানতে পারি। আর এটা তিনটি বিষয় নিয়ে তৈরি হয়েছিল। এগুলো রাইটিংকে একটা শ্রেণীতে ফেলার জন্য ব্যবহার করা হয় জনর। জয়েসের পোয়েট্রিট অব দ্য আর্টিস্ট অ্যাজ এ ইয়ং ম্যানে জনর সম্বন্ধে জানা যায়। Within this overreaching division, Aristotle and other classical critics identify a number of more specific genres. Many of the ancient names, including epic, tragedy, comedy, and satire, have remained current to the present day. To have them been added over the last 3 centuries, such relatives newcomers as biography, essay, and novel. A glance at the genres in prose and verse listed at the end of this entry will indicate the crisscrossing diversity of the classes and subclasses to which individual works of literature have been assigned. পরবর্তীকালে অ্যারিস্টটল এবং অন্যান্য যেসব বিখ্যাত লেখকরা ছিলেন, তারা এই ৩ প্রকার জনর ছাড়াও আরও অনেক জনর, যেমন এপিক, ট্র্যাজেডি, কমেডি এবং স্যাটার, এগুলি আবিষ্কার করেন। Through the Renaissance and much of the 18th century, the recognized genres or poetic kinds, as they were then called, were widely thought to be fixed literary types, somewhat like species in the biological order of nature. Many new classic critics insisted that each kind must remain pure, and also proposed rules which specify the subject matter, structure, style, and emotional effect proper to each kind. At that time, the genres were also commonly ranked in a hierarchy, ranging from epic and tragedy at the top of the pastorals or lyric, epigram, and other types then considered to be minor genres at the bottom. Shakespeare satirized the pedantic classifiers of his era in Polonius' catalogue of types of drama: tragedy, comedy, history, pastoral, pastoral, comical, historical, pastoral, tragedical, historical, tragedical, commercial, historical, pastoral. রেনেসান্স পিরিয়ড এবং 18th সেঞ্চুরিতে জনর ছিল একরকম। সেখানে এপিককে প্রথমে রাখা হতো এবং তারপর এপিগ্রাম এইসবকে রাখা হতো নিচে। In the course of the 18th century, the emergence of new types of literary production such as the novel and the poem, combining nature description, philosophy, and narrative, helped weaken confidence in the fixity and stability of literary genres. And in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the extraordinary rise in the prominence and prestige of the short lyric poem and the concurrent shift in the basis of critical theory to an expressive orientation effected a drastic alteration in both the concept and ranking of literary genres. With the lyric, displacing epic and tragedy as the quintessentially poetic type. From the Romantic period on, a decreasing emphasis on the generic conception of literary literature was indicated by the widespread use of criteria for evaluating literature, which, unlike the criteria in new classic criticism, which tended to be specific to a particular genre, were broadly applicable to all higher literary works. Criteria such as sincerity, intensity, organic unity, and high seriousness in the new criticism of the mid 20th century, with its ruling concept of the uniqueness of each literary work. Genre seeks to play more than a subordinate role in critical analysis and evaluation. For the change in the 19th century in the classification and ranking of the genre, see M.H. Abrams' The Mirror and the Lamp, especially chapters 1, 4 and 6 on the continuous as well as changes of writings in the traditional genres during the Romantic period. See Stuart Curran, Poetic Form and British Romanticism. তো এখানে বলা হয়েছে রোমান্টিক পিরিয়ড এবং 19th সেঞ্চুরির যে জনর ছিল তার সম্বন্ধে। সেটা আলাদা রকমের ছিল। After 1950 or so, an emphasis on generic types was revived by some critical theories. Although on varied principle of classification, R.S. Crane and other Chicago critics have defended the utility for practical criticism of predefined distinction among genres based on Aristotle poetics, in which works are classified in accordance with similarity in the principle by which they are organized in order to achieve a particular kind of emotional effect. See R.S. Crane and Critics and Criticism. Are held to manifest the enduring forms bodies forth by the human imagination as represented in the archetypal maze correlated with the four seasons. Other current theories conceive genus as social formation on the model of social institution, such as the state or church, rather than on the model of biological species. By structuralist critics say genre is conceived as a set of constitutive convention and codes alternating from age to age but shared by a kind of implicit contract between writer and reader. These codes make possible the writing of a particular literary text, although the winter may play against as well as with the prevailing generic convention in the reader. This convention generate a set of expression which may be controverted rather than satisfied, but enable the reader to make the work intelligible, that is, to naturalize it by relating it to the world as defined and ordered by codes in the prevailing culture. 1950s দশকে জনরো অন্যরকম ছিল। Many current critics regard genres as more or less arbitrary modes of classification whose justification is their convenience in discussing literature. Some critics have applied to generic classes and philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein concept of family resemblance. That is, they propose that in the loosely grouped family of works that make up a genre, there are no essential defining features but only a set of family resemblance. Each member shares some of these resemblance with some but not all of the other members of the genre. For a description and discussion of Wittgenstein views, see Carlo Ginberg's Family Resemblance and Family Trees, two consecutive metaphors, critical injury. There has also been interested in the role that generic assumptions are played in shaping the work that an author composes, as well as in establishing expectations that alter the way that a reader will interpret and respond to a particular work. Whatever the present skepticism, however, about the old belief that genres constitute inherent species in the realm of literature, the fact that genetic distinction remain indispensable in literary discourse is attested by the unceasing publication of books whose title announced that they deal with tragedy, the lyric, pastoral, the novel, or another of the many types and subtypes into which literature has over the centuries been classified. এর পরবর্তীকালে আরও অনেক ধরনের জনরা আসে এবং অনেকে এগুলিকে তাদের নিজেদের মতো করে ব্যাখ্যাও করেন। Reviews of traditional theories of genre are Rennie Willek and Austin Warren, Theory of Literature, Chapter 17, and the readable short survey by Heather Dubrow. Genre, see also Alastair Fowler, Kinds of Literature, An Introduction to the Theory of Genres and Models, Adana Rosman, The Power of Genre, and David Dubb, Modern Genre Theory for a Marxist Approach, Frederick Jameson, Magical Narratives on the Dialectical Use of Genre Criticism, Chapter 2 of the Political Unconscious Narrative as a Socially Symbolic Text. For a deconstructive approach, see Jacques Derrida, The Law of Genre Critical Inquiry. তো এখানে বিভিন্ন রকমের জনরোর এক্সাম্পল দেওয়া আছে। তো আসলে জনর হলো সেই পদ্ধতি যাতে করে রাইটিংগুলিকে শ্রেণীবিভক্ত করা হয়। জনর অনেক ধরনের হয়ে থাকে, যেমন কমেডি, ট্র্যাজেডি এটসেট্রা। এটা সময়ের সাথে সাথে বিকশিত হয়। অ্যারিস্টটল এবং প্লেটো জনর মূলত আবিষ্কার করেছিলেন এবং তারপরে আরও অনেকে এটি নিয়ে চর্চা করেছেন। তো আজকের মতো ক্লাস এতটুকুই।